COVID-19 address to the nation did inform all of us that from the 15th of January 2021, schools will be reopened, which means kindergarten, nursery, primary school kids will all be going back to school. Most parents were excited because the children have been home for too long. Except that now that the reopening is getting close, some of us are getting somewhat worried. Why? Also because if you look at the COVID cases, they've started going up. So today I'm spending a bit of the morning with a Deputy Director General of the Ghana Education Service. You can send us your concerns. What is on your heart as your children will be going back to school just next Monday? You can go to Facebook. We've posted the question there. You can add your voice to it so I can pass it on to him. They are also onto a campaign, a back to school campaign. We will talk about that as well. So get involved. This is our conversation as parents, guardians, as teachers, heads of institutions. If you've got any concerns, kindly send it to us so I can pass it on. So my guest this morning is a Deputy Director General of the Ghana Education Service, Mr. Anthony Boateng. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for allowing us to have this conversation.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
Great. So let's first address the issue of the fact that the COVID cases have started going up again. So some people are asking, must children really go back to school?
Yeah, let me say that on the issue of the COVID cases going up, I think that the appropriate authority to address that question will be the Ghana Health Service. But I believe that since COVID and this related issue came to Ghana, the president has ably led the nation in the fight against COVID-19. And I'm sure many of the decisions he has made have been influenced by both science and data, as we've been made to believe. I have no doubt in my mind that when he came to the decision that schools should reopen, he had factored all those issues into consideration. And I'm sure he is very much aware that we can manage the situation under those circumstances.
So the little children are all going from age 4, is that it?
Yes, that's so.
So we would have first timers also go back to school on Monday?
Yes. You see, what we have to appreciate, and in fact, as educational managers, that was our major concern, the children who were to go into school for the first time. The demographic composition of education is that we start school in Ghana at age 4. These are kids who are 4 years. If they are unable to go to school and they go to school at age 5, you absolutely disrupt the demographic composition of our educational system. It has very serious implications for us. Indeed, as I speak to you, we have issues of what we call overage and underage in school, which is a major concern we are trying to deal with. And therefore, we're very anxious that these children who are 4 years should be able to go to school. Indeed, it was one of the major considerations why the final year students were made to exit, so that the system could be cleared for the first timers to also enter school. So they are all going back to school.
So what would change in terms of the schools, the classrooms as we know it from Monday?
Right. A lot of things will change because we are to keep social distancing. We are to ensure that the children observe the protocols as have been put in place. We are to ensure that teachers interact with the students much more closely and much more intensely, because there are a lot that have been missed and we need to cover up. So a lot of things will have, we are not going to have the things as usual. A lot of things will have to be changed. A lot of it, much more concentration and effectiveness has to come into the system.
What's the expectation that 4-year-olds will wear masks?
We are discussing that with the Ghana Health Service, who will be the best people to advise. But for our planning, we have arranged that they will wear, depending on the advice we get from Ghana Health Service.
And would you be supplying the mask for all students?
Government will supply mask for every student and every staff of the school.
So they're going to school on a daily basis.
Yes.
Is it one day, one mask?
No, these are usable and washable masks. What we supply to both students and teachers are usable and washable masks. So that is exactly what we will be doing.
Of course, even as I'm asking you this, I think it's also good that we encourage parents to also provide extra masks for children. We know how, my colleague on the show, on the AM show, Benjamin, who is back in the studio, cited something, I think, was it yesterday, where a child could say, oh, your mask is nice, let me try yours. Have you tried to play out the various scenarios where we could possibly see when schools reopen?
Right. You see, we have. Let me assure you, we know the children better than probably everybody else do. We know what they can do and what they cannot do. We even know of children who will even use the mask to even do other things. And children, we know them. We've been working with them for a very long time, so we know. So we are putting. That is why we said that a lot of things will change. A lot of much more concentration, much more attention has to be given to ensure that these children. And you see, one of the most difficult things that we will face as educational system is that these children, especially the very, very young ones, are taught and they learn through play. At the same time, under this environment, we need to restrict some of the play, some of the things that they can do and they cannot do. And so that is part of the management that we are putting in place to ensure that they can learn at the same time, they can be taught at the same time within those safety and health protocol arrangements.
So we're social distancing. Are we providing extra classrooms in that instance? Because some of the classes are really full.
We are not providing, of course, Karen, as we sit here, we cannot provide additional classrooms. If even we have the resources to do that, we will not complete before the schools reopen. What is going to happen, yes, is that we are going to ensure social distancing. We will deploy and employ all the facilities available in our various schools and compounds. We will encourage, because many of these activities, especially the younger ones, are through play, we will encourage teachers and caregivers to use much more open facilities as much as possible to enhance the teaching and learning. In areas where we have extreme cases of congestion, we will authorize district directors in specific cases to adopt specific strategies for dealing with specific schools which have unusually high numbers.
Okay, so at this point I'd like to go to Facebook, because we put a post up on Facebook and people are responding. So I'm just going to save the rest of the questions that I have. If you've got questions as well, my guest this morning, coming to you live from the Ghana Education Service, is a Deputy Director of the Ghana Education Service, Mr. Anthony Boateng. You can send me your questions right here on Facebook or on the screens. We're going to put up the WhatsApp number as well. You can send your questions. Time is now, really. So this is on Facebook. Ernest Ayarik says, no textbooks for the new curriculum, no guidelines as to the number of contact hours to be spent in school. Some classes have more than 60 pupils. What plans should be taken to avoid the spread of the pandemic? With less than 6 days, we have not heard of any PPEs to be provided. How will the sitting arrangements be done? Because with the new curriculum that was introduced, pupils sat in groups facing each other. These and many more are some of the concerns yet to be addressed. So 5 questions that NS brings up.
Right. Now, on the issue of textbooks, I think that we need to assure everybody that the textbooks are being procured, and some have been delivered, and they will be delivered to the schools.
Before Monday?
Some before, some after. Some before, some after. You see, what we should appreciate is that textbooks are teaching and learning materials. Textbooks primarily should support the children in their learning. Teachers are supposed to prepare lessons to go and deliver. And then the children, in reinforcing what they have been taught by their teachers, are then exposed to the textbooks. Teachers might use textbooks as additional material, But I will be surprised to hear of any teacher who says that his primary or her primary source of preparation for his class or her class is a textbook.
Okay, there was a second question.
On the issue of the, I think he talked about
contact hours.
Contact hours.
There hasn't been any guidelines.
Yes, there are guidelines. You see, madam, what is happening is that we will encourage everybody to be calm. Like we did with the phase reopening, we provided guidelines for the schools and for these guidelines are sent to the school authorities. Now, in the current exercise, the one we are doing, as I speak to you, today is a Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Right. By tomorrow, we will release the first set of guidelines that we are targeting parents so that they can liaise with their children whilst at home, help us educate them on some of the guidelines that they'll be going through in school so that the children will be much more familiar.
Okay.
And the parents can also be more comfortable that some of these things will happen in school.
So this is coming in the form of what, a press release? Or?
They are material, they are printouts, they are press releases,
Okay.
there are several forms that people can read, people can access and use them to educate their children at home.
So if I can get some assurance that your office will get it to me, at least I can share it on my show tomorrow.
We will.
Okay.
We will.
All right.
We will.
So that's in terms of the guidelines on the contact hours. There's also the question of some classes have more than 60 pupils.
Yes.
What plans should be taken?
Yeah, I think I addressed your question earlier, in which I said that we will observe social distancing where there are specific cases of schools where the populations are extraordinarily large. District directors would be, because we don't want to, it will not be general. It will depend on the specific school. And we will encourage that district directors, we have already met with them. They will be directed on how to deal with specific cases of overpopulation. Okay,
when you say how to deal with it, are there examples that you talked about that you want to share? So, for instance, let's use this number of 60.
Yes, you see, when there are 60 students in one class, it's too large, and in the environment in which we find ourselves. So, for example, what we have done is that we will try to see if there's nearby. One of the things, we have done some studies, and one of the things we have noted is the issue of school feeding. You go to a compound or you go to a community, and there are two schools. One school is on school feeding, the other is not. You find the school with school feeding overpopulated, while the other one, because many children drift towards those schools with the school feeding. What we are trying to do, and which the discussion is already underway, how do we spread the school feeding to the next school so that we can spread out the children to occupy those empty classes in the next school? And then in some of for example, in the KGs and in the very lower classes, if there are other structures around that can accommodate the children, we will deploy them. For example, there are some schools which are housed around church premises. Is it not possible for us to talk to the church authorities to allow some of the overflowing students to move in there and make sure that we are arranged in such a way that the student can receive teaching and learning effectively?
Except that when you do that, then you need more teachers to take care of them.
We will not, because we have done our numbers and we know we will be able to handle that.
Okay. I think the next question was on the PPEs.
Yes, PPEs are being supplied and will be supplied to all students and teachers and staff of the schools.
So those who have not seen PPEs yet, let them
go to school on Monday and they'll get the PPEs.
Okay. All right. I think that will be it for this question. This one from Papanko says, how will pupils at KG and nursery levels be handled to protect these kids from contracting the deadly coronavirus? I'm wondering how possible it will be.
We will not be dealing with nurseries. We will be dealing with KGs. That's those who are 4 years. And as I did indicate earlier, we are very much conscious of the risk there. We are very much conscious of how they act, how they behave, and the rest. And I think that I've earlier told you that we are very much aware of that, and we've taken measures to ensure that we can ensure that they learn in safety and in health.
Is there
what we would do in terms of contact hours is that for the very, very low classes, they will not stay in school for too long. They will not stay in school for too long.
What too long means?
Well, too long means that they might not spend more than 4 hours.
Because traditionally the closing time is 2 p.m.
No, we are looking at day closing within 4 hours. Because of their age and because of their circumstances.
So this is the 4-year-olds?
Yes.
Okay.
The 4 5s. Those we are looking 4 5s. KG1, KG2, P1, yes.
So they go to school at what time? 7?
8
a.m.
and close at 12.
And close at 12.
Yes.
But for the rest of the students,
they will run their normal curriculum timetable.
Okay. All right. I was just going to ask: is there a certain direction on the creche and nurseries in terms of
those are
those
are not under the mandate of Ghana Education Service? So I will not be. It will not be appropriate for me to be talking about them.
Okay. So you're not given directions in that sense.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to shelve the questions on private schools because that also doesn't come.
Yeah, private schools are all being reopened. But as to the specific I think that the arrangement is the same throughout.
So it's just the contact hours. So
yes.
my children's school, for instance, are closing at 4. And I asked, shouldn't we be reducing the time now?
The arrangement is that they will do 4 hours, at least for the public schools. And I expect the private schools to come on board because the arrangement for handling pupils are the same across board.
Yeah, but who is policing them? I mean, who is regulating whether or not
the National Authority of School Inspection.
Okay, so I guess we have to get more answers from them. So let me not bore you with that, except that Emmanuel Ewuku Akoya is saying that the president should have waited till he paid our January salaries before allowing the children to go back to school. This one is says from Musa Al Hassan says, my concern is that schools that have dual desk deficit, how are they going to cope with social distancing?
We recognize that under COVID-19 circumstances and under social distancing, the use of dual desk has to be looked at again, and we are looking at that. For now, we will restrict the use of dual desk because of social distancing.
So no 3:1.
3.
Because there are times that you have 3.
No. Because of social distancing, we can't.
But
do
you
that.
already have the desk, so what happens?
The desks are there. The desk will be used, but probably we'll have to reduce the number of students who will use it. Yes.
Okay. All right. Here, Dada Coin says, I wonder why people are totally against the reopening, because from my little observations, these kids don't obey these COVID protocols at home too, and the rate at which they move about playing with others is so worrying. All right. If you've got any questions, you can kindly send it to us. Alberta Sichofer, you asked a question about approved textbooks for our children. I guess we've touched on that. Okay, if you've got more questions, well, I am here in the Deputy Director General of the Ghana Education Service. I am in his office. There are people asking about tertiary institutions. That's not your domain, is it?
No.
Okay, all right. So we've talked about the contact hours. We've talked about the textbooks. We've talked about the dual desk deficit. Let's talk about the campaign to get people back to school. I'm sure that you've also received some of the concerns that parents are raising now that the time is so close for the children to go back to school.
No, you see, when we initiated the campaign, because we got the numbers, when we recalled the final years to go and write their exams, and when we recalled the second years to school, we realized that some students did not come back to school. And we were concerned, and therefore we tried to carry out some survey, and the survey did indicate to us that because of the long period of closure, some students, for example, have gotten into some commercial activities, that some have started seeing money, and asking them to drop this activity to go back to school is likely to be a challenge. Some parents have, because of the long closure, have used their students to support them in their economic ventures, and asking them to release their children to go back to school is going to be a little bit of a challenge. We realize that unfortunately, some of our females have become pregnant. Some also have been married away.
Do we know the numbers? Because we keep hearing this.
We have the projections, but not the actual numbers, because you will not know everybody, but you can have the projections. So what we decided on then is to engage in a campaign aimed at motivating and encouraging both students, parents, and the general public to support us in urging all the children to return to school when schools reopen. And that's exactly what we are doing under the back to school campaign. We have trained people at all the regional centers in all the 16 regions. We have trained some are currently being trained in all the 260 districts, so that they will go to both the communities, they will engage the various stakeholders in urging them to support us in encouraging, motivating the children to return to school.
Are we given some sort of incentives?
For the moment, no.
Okay.
For the moment.
Let's get some WhatsApp messages. This one says, please, I'm a first-year student under Golden Track system. Since we couldn't complete the previous academic year, are we now going to finish it up or start a new academic year in Form 2?
Yeah, it's good this has come up. Because everybody is moving one class forward, under the curriculum that we are running, it's more of building blocks. You need A before you go to B. So those aspects of the curriculum which are not being touched as a result of the closure will have to be covered. And therefore, I'm sure you might have seen, we have just sent out a release to our schools. And we've asked that the first 8 weeks should be used to clear up those subjects, those topics that we have not been able to clear as a result of the closure. So we use the first 8 weeks to do all that mopping up, and then we will then build upon in their new class. You see, that is, if you look at the structure, we have a structure which aims at returning the schools to the normal academic calendar. So next year, for example, we will structure it in such a way that this year, the academic year will end around around October, November. Next year, hopefully, if we are still alive, it will end around August, September. And we expect that by the third year, we will have returned to May, June.
Okay.
So that is how we are managing it in such a way that we can return the academic year to its normal state.
So the first question had a second leg to it. It says whether students are going together or others will go together, taking into consideration the track system. You see, for the senior high schools, we are running double track for only the second years. Final years will go in one stretch. First year, when they report to school, will go one stretch. But the second years will continue to run double track. So there will be some of the students home?
So the green track will go, the gold track will be home. Okay.
This one says, good morning, JoyNews. Would they maintain the policy of 25 students in each class?
We will relax it a bit, but there will be limitation on the number of students who should be in one class.
Okay. Somebody asking when the new curriculum is going to take place. Amaliba is asking.
Which curriculum?
I'm not sure. Says I
because
want to know when the
standard-based curriculum is already in place. The Common Core program, that is what we're going to train the teachers on, especially those who are going to GHS 1. We're going to train them. We have had to postpone it for some technical reasons. But because of the 8 weeks, the teachers will be using to clear up the topics they were not able to cover in the previous academic year. By the time the 8 weeks are up, they will have been trained to carry on with the new curriculum in the junior high schools.
Okay. This one is asking if there will be provisions of sanitizers and Veronica Bucket that you say we should wait Monday they would find these things.
There will be.
Okay. This one says, my school has only one class for KG and the population is about 65 pupils and one old woman dealing with these kids. We don't even have extra teachers to divide the class into 2 groups. What should be done is from Kojampong in Wasa Ekropong.
Very well. That is it's a real challenge. We have identified that not only there in some other areas, but as I said, district directors have been directed on what to do in such specific cases, and they will deal with the situation.
Okay, here's a question. I think the first part is not necessarily for you because he says, my concern is about the busing of these pupils to school by our private school. Will there be any strict measures to control overloading? We're going to follow up on this, but here's one to you. It says, can we not wait to, as a matter of urgency, vaccinate all KG and lower primary pupils in Ghana before they start school?
That is purely a health matter that I will.
I knew you were going to say go to Ghana Health Service.
Ghana Health Service to deal with that, because if you remember, this issue of even testing came up when we were recalling the final years to school. I remember I was in your studio and it was one of the major issues that came up, and Ghana Health Service had taken a decision on that one. So I will leave this one to them to make a decision on that.
This one says, any allowance for teachers risking their lives in teaching for all year round in this pandemic? Your teachers haven't been teaching, have they?
Your teachers have not been teaching.
Somebody's asking for allowance.
I thought he would have asked whether they were going to give government some commission for paying them all this period without teaching. But I think that they should exercise patience. Let's go through the motion and see. In the senior high schools, we have what we call the teacher motivation, where we give the teachers some extra allowance, though very, very small. But at least it's the recognition that we give that they are putting in extra efforts. So let them have patience. Let's go through the motion and see.
Okay, but for now, that is not on the table.
It's not.
Okay. This one says Tarivago Primary School, and I hope that I did mention the name of the school right. Has only three classrooms, right? KG1 to B6. Meanwhile, B6 alone has over 60 pupils. That's in the Tempane districts. This one says, will there be wholesale promotion for the student? Will the JHS 1 run same curriculum as that of the JHS 2 and JHS 3?
You see, let me state this. Recalling of students back to school will not solve all the problems that we have already. Those problems will continue to be there, and they will be dealt with as we go along. So it should not be because of COVID-19 we are recalling, so all the problems of the service have been dealt with. No. Some of these challenges have been actual, real challenges that we have been encountering. There are areas where they don't even have classrooms. There are areas where children, they have even used palm fronts to divide a block into classrooms. Those ones will be tackled as long-term measures. But for now, what we are going to use what we have to deal with the situation. But definitely, the situation will recall for some extra attention because of the circumstances we find ourselves with COVID-19. So those ones, I think I've said,
yes,
those with peculiar issues will be addressed in their specific circumstances.
Okay, there's the wholesale promotion. This one has to do with JHS.
Everybody is moving on.
Okay.
Everybody is moving on.
This one says, good morning, JoyNews. Please, if the KGs close earlier than the primary, the KGs will start to wait for their brothers and sisters in the primary. By then, the teachers have left. So what will happen to the kids? This is another reality.
You see, it is a reality. And it's a reality that we cannot deal with as a package. But there are others who will go, who don't have their kids in the school. There are others who have their kids in school. There are others whose parents might want to come and pick all of them together. So going to pick one and later in the day go to pick the other will become an issue. But these are some of the inconveniences all of us will have to. Why should we even be thinking of wearing of masks to school? But this is because of the circumstance we find ourselves. So let us all endeavor to endure part of these inconveniences as we go along and the situation improves. These things will not come up.
Okay, this one says schools are reopening next week, Monday. My school, KG 1 and 2, for instance, sits on the floor, as well as the basic 1 to basic 5 for their lessons. How do I handle the situation? From Ahmed Isaku.
They sit on the floor?
Yes.
Which
Doraemon Nyangli, KG and Primary, Wa Wests.
Yeah, you see, Mama, you see, as I've said earlier, the problems of the system will not be solved overnight. And they will not be solved because of COVID-19. If the children sit on floor, very unfortunate. But if they sit on floor, and they have been doing this for some time, I wish we could deal with it immediately so that the children would have some comfort. But for the moment, if the children sit on floor and they can keep social distance and they can learn, for the moment, there's little we can do. But I hope we'll be able to identify this school and quickly attend to.
I'll forward this message to you so that you can check this out.
If there are some emergency plans that we can put in place, we will do that.
This one says for SHS2 students who are day students, what will happen to them? Because even when they were in the first year before COVID-19, some teachers were teaching at night after supper. Now that they are almost on crash course to make up, would there be evening classes to the disadvantage of day students? Kwesi from UCC is asking.
You see, if teachers teach extra classes, which we will encourage because of the circumstance we find ourselves, we expect that the teachers will arrange this with the students and there will be agreed times. We also expect that in agreeing on the times, teachers and the students will be conscious of how these children can go back home in safety. And then, of course, it's also important for us to note that under the circumstances in which we find ourselves, it is important that we close early so that children can get home as early as possible. And you see, also because of COVID-19, the student needs some amount of rest. So we will also encourage that in agreeing on the times, they should take all these factors into consideration.
Okay.
But I know that teachers would discuss the extra timing with the children before they plan them.
Okay, so somebody specifically asked if they will be permitted to do extra classes. You're not saying no to that, except
extra classes under school supervision, not private extra classes by teachers for which they extort money from the children. Okay. We will not allow that.
All right.
But we will allow extra classes under the general management of the school management, which is coordinated, managed, and monitored by the school authorities.
Great. This one says, during the JHS 3 people, okay, I'm not sure I get this. We're told every teacher will receive 3 face masks and free hand sanitizer, but we received only 1 face mask and 1 hand sanitizer each for teachers in my school. Are they not sure the same thing is going to happen again? When you come to Upper West Region, precisely Nandom, Pufian circuits, how many nose mask and hand sanitizer for teachers? How many for pupils?
For now, we are repeating what we did earlier: 3 for teachers and 3 for students. If for any reason any teacher got less than 3 or any teacher receives less than 3, they should let their district directors know. And once they alert us, we will quickly resolve the problem.
Okay, this one says all the time they give these assurance and it doesn't work. Look, some schools don't even have the teachers. 2 teachers for KG 1 to basic 6. How will they control them? Not even water at the school, no toilets. Okay, when you send these kind of messages, you have to give me a lot of details because you don't mention any school in particular. There's no district, there's no region. So if you're watching it, I know that you are, kindly give me more so that I can provide it to him. This one says, how do we deal with group activity in class? Okay, we've dealt with that. Is it true that school duration will last for 6 months without vacation and midterm from Senyo Danu in Volta?
Which school? We are running the semester system for senior high schools, and there's a maximum of 16 weeks per semester. we intend introducing semester to the junior high schools, and they will run the approved period. Of course, with the junior high schools, we have even made provision on the calendar for midterms.
Okay.
I have the calendar here. I'll show it to you.
Okay.
There are provision for midterms.
I guess the midterm is the Easter break, isn't it?
No, that is the vacation. We have the vacation and we have the midterm. So we are very conscious of the fact that these children are not used to long stay in school. So at a certain point, even with the senior high schools, at a point, if you don't break them, they start getting agitated. So you create for midterms. We have made provision for midterms in the junior high schools.
Okay.
Who to also be running the
which you would share with me, you've said. Okay,
yes.
I want to know if GES has plans of taking the responsibility of testing any suspected COVID-19 student, I guess. Students should not be asked to go do tests themselves because we don't have money to pay for any testing.
We have never, ever asked any student since we started the phase recall to go and do a test, him or herself. Never. What has happened is that, let me assure the public that the protocols we use for the phase reopening or the phase recalls are still in place. Every single school, both basic and secondary, has been mapped with the help of Ghana to a health facility. If a student reports of being unwell, the teachers and the heads, the school management knows exactly what to do. They will quickly alert that health facility and the student will be attended to. It is purely for the health facility to decide how to manage that student. We have never asked any student to go and do a test on COVID-19. Never, ever. And it will not happen this time.
All right. This one says, any plans for, will there be some kind of mass testing for teachers and pupils? We're here again. Also, I believe now is the right time GES should practice the shift system or double track system to reduce crowding at schools and dormitories. From Rashid Mohammed Nouri in Wa. Are you regretting scrapping?
No. You see, shift system comes about because of some challenge. Inadequacy of facilities lead to shifts. Nobody will ordinarily run a shift system.
I benefited, and I have to share the story again. I benefited from the shift system, and I tell you what, if there wasn't a shift system, I don't know how I would have gone to school. Because I needed to support my mother. So if you go in the morning, you come and support in the afternoon. If you go in the afternoon, you go to school in the morning. That kind of thing.
At the same time, there were children who were in the afternoon shift, and when you meet them, they will tell them I'm in the morning shift. When they were in the afternoon, they will tell them I went for morning. So they were also, at the same time that you were benefiting, there were at the same time there were some students who were negatively being affected by the shift system. But shift system comes out of necessity. It's out of necessity.
Such as the one that we're in.
The one, for example, you see, I told you that we are asking the district director to deal with specific cases of overpopulation.
Does it mean we could possibly see some schools doing the shifts?
It's possible. It's possible. If there is no other facility, but the children must be taught, it will be done.
Okay. I guess we're coming to the end of this conversation, but I see more messages. So let me just quickly run through. Any plans for day students who commute from home to school to ensure safety to and fro?
When we recall the senior high schools, the purely day students run as they continue as day students. All what we do is to enhance the safety protocols so that we can then capture them and monitor them closely. But they will continue to be day students. Okay,
this one says, in the community that I am now, as a newly posted teacher, no one seemed to wear the nose mask, or not even the elders. How sure are we that these students would put it on to school? And if they fail to do that, what can I do to make sure they wear? Because I always do. Now that's a big problem.
It's a big issue that goes beyond the education system. But we believe that the children can even be agents of change. You see, when the students come to school, they are more likely to listen to their teachers. So with constant education, encouragement, and motivation by teachers, they will wear them. And they will even carry the message to the community. So we believe that if even we succeed in getting them to appreciate the need to wear their mask, they will educate their parents and their relations, and they will then in turn also wear the mask.
Okay, this one says, will the government provide one hot meal to JHS students when school resumes?
To be honest with you, let me not make any categorical statement here. I knew that it was done when we recalled the second year students. But with this reopening, let me get back to the authorities and get back to you.
Yes, sir. And this one says, this is Mono Junior Jami says, how do you monitor the kind of play the children involve themselves during breaks to avoid touching themselves all over? And then 2, how often will the temperatures be checked?
The temperatures will be checked on very regular basis. But of course, we won't say every 1 hour check or 2 hours. But we'll leave that to the discretion of the school and its authorities. But in terms of the first question was about the
monitoring the play,
the play
during breaks.
Yeah, see, if you remember, I've told you that for the elderly ones, for the little bit elderly ones, we are not too worried. But with the kids, with the KGs and the primary 1s and 2s, they must even learn through play. They must learn through play. At the same time, you want to limit their contacts. How do you do that even during teaching? How much more during playtime? That is where the skills and the professionalism of the teacher will come into play. And we believe that with the type of teachers that we have and the training that they have undergone, as many as people who know how to manage these children, we will succeed. Okay.
In wrapping up, I know that you are at Manche Agbona, let me say, yes, Accra Business District, with the campaign to get children back to school. How is it going to happen on the ground?
In terms of Manche Agbona or in the school?
In terms of Manche Agbona, and then what's the rollout plan? From there, where do you go?
As I told you earlier, this is going to be a little bit different because normally lunch is before the action. But this one, as I've told you earlier, the action has already started. Already trained all the 16 regional teams. We are currently training the district teams, but we need to launch it nationally to draw people's attention to the campaign, so that when people come to you, you will appreciate why they are there and what they are doing. And so that's what we are doing today at Manche. It's just the national launch. We will after we have launched, then the actual exercise which have been going on will continue in the communities and with the parents and the students.
All right. Well, sir, I thank you so much for your time. This is a conversation that we'll be having with all the necessary stakeholders. So who knows, I may come back to you.
You're most welcome.
Before Monday.
You're most welcome.
Mr. Anthony Boateng is a Deputy Director General, Ghana Education Service. We've been talking about the reopening of schools, the concerns that some parents, some students, and some teachers have out there, and I've been sharing your questions with him. Hopefully, your question has been answered. It's just the first in a series of conversations ahead of the reopening on Monday. From his office here at the Ghana Education Service, my name is Mama V. Owusu-Abaji. Back to you, Ben, in the studio.